Hello students, I am VLN Swarupini, lecturer in biochemistry from Sri Venkateswara College of Arts and Sciences, which is affiliated to Adhika Vinanaya University, Rajahmundry. Now, I would like to discuss about second BSc 4th semester biochemistry paper, that is intermediary metabolism. From this paper, we are already discussing third unit topics, and in the previous class we have discussed about the metabolism of phenylalanine. In the same manner we have discussed about the metabolism of serine. Okay, so now let's move on to the another amino acids like methionine. Okay, let's start with the metabolism of methionine. So here methionine is also an important amino acid, and its metabolism is divided into three parts. Okay, firstly transmethylation reactions will be carried, and later conversion of this methionine to cysteine and cysteine, and later we'll see the degradation of this cysteine. So these are the three major parts that we commonly see in the methionine metabolism. So first step is the utilization of methionine for transmethylation reactions. So what is the first step in the metabolism of methionine? It is the utilization of methionine for transmethylation reactions. And coming to the second step or second part of the methionine metabolism, it is conversion of methionine to cysteine and cysteine. And the third step is degradation of cysteine and its conversion to specialized products. So here methionine firstly undergoes transmethylation reactions. Transmethylation reactions will be carried. So here transmethylation is nothing but transfer of a methyl group. CH3 group is transferred. So why this transmethylation means? This is to activate the methionine. So this methionine, which is a amino acid, should be activated by this transmethylation process. So transmethylation means nothing but transfer of methyl group. So let's see about this transmethylation, which is the first step in the metabolism of the methionine. So here transmethylation, this is nothing but the transfer of methyl group. Transfer of methyl group, and from active methionine to a acceptor is known as transmethylation. So active methionine will give this methyl group to a acceptor during the transmethylation process. Okay, and here this transmethylation is very important. Okay, it has a great biological significance. And why this is very important means this helps in many compounds. So helps in many compounds to become active. So this transmethylation process is very helpful for different kinds of compounds to make them active. So here this methionine is donating the methyl group to the acceptor. So acceptors are the compounds which take this methyl group and they undergo active state. Okay, so here what happens? Initially this methionine is there. Just wait. So here methionine is there. It is donating one methyl group to the acceptor, and this acceptor, by taking the methyl group, it is activated. Okay, it is activated. So here this methionine is very helpful to make different compounds and act into an active state. So this is the major importance of this methionine. It will donate methyl group and activate different compounds. Okay, so here protein methylation is also an important concept. Why? Because this protein methylation helps to control protein turnover. So protein turnover in our body is maintained by the protein methylation, and this protein methylation is carried by this amino acid methionine, and in general methylation protects the protein from immediate degradation. So by transmethylation process, whatever the methionine is giving the methyl group, what this methyl group will do is it will help the compound to be in an active state for longer period, and if not, what happens, that particular compound will undergo degradation. So to avoid the degradation process, this particular protein methylation will be helpful. Okay, hope you understood about this. So here what's happening, protein methylation is helpful to control protein turnover number. Okay, so this methionine donates the methyl group to the proteins and helps that particular protein from degradation. It will not allow that protein to undergo degradation. By this, what happens? Protein will be active for longer period in our body. Okay, and in plants, so in plants also this transmethylation is carried. So let's see what happens in plants. In plants, this S-adenosyl methionine will act as precursor for the synthesis of plant hormones. So every plant consists of different kinds of hormones, like these hormones are helpful in the biological activity or metabolism of the plants, like in developing flowers or developing fruits, and also sometimes ripening. All these factors are influenced by hormones which are present in the plants. Okay, so in the same manner here, whatever the S-adenosyl methionine is present in the plants will act as precursor for the plant hormone ethylene. So, S-adenosyl methionine is a precursor for plant hormone ethylene in the plants, and this ethylene will regulate plant growth and development and is involved in the ripening also. So, this ethylene is essential for the plant growth as well as development. So, along with this plant growth and development, this particular ethylene is also helpful in the ripening of the fruits of that particular plant. So, this ethylene, so if that particular plant which is depending on the ethylene for its growth, development and ripening of the fruits, it requires ethylene. So ethylene, from where it will come? It will be synthesized from the S-adenosyl methionine. By transmethylation process, this adenosyl methionine is converted into ethylene, which is a active plant hormone, helps the plant in its growth and its development, and after development of the fruits, for ripening of the fruits also this particular ethylene is helpful. Okay, so this is the transmethylation. So in transmethylation, so what in wherever this methionine is present, it undergoes transmethylation process for making the compound active, and particularly in plants for producing the plant hormone ethylene. So these are the major aspects related to transmethylation reactions that are commonly seen in this particular methionine. So next step is conversion of methionine to cysteine. Conversion of methionine to cysteine. So here homocysteine formed from methionine is the precursor for the synthesis of cysteine. That means here from methionine homocysteine will be produced by the enzyme homocysteine methyl transferase. So here the enzyme homocysteine methyltransferase. Excuse me, just 1 minute. So here homocysteine is formed from the methionine, and this homocysteine will act as precursor for the cysteine. Okay, so here what happens is homocysteine will combine with uh, serine, another amino acid, and by the action of the enzyme cystothionine beta synthase is the enzyme which helps this condensation, that is homocysteine and serine will be combined with the help of cystothionine beta synthase, and as a result of this what happens is cystothionine will be produced. So here as I said, methionine will produce homocysteine. How this process will be carried means this methionine is converted into S-adenosyl methionine. Okay, S-adenosyl methionine will be produced, and this reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme methionine adenosyl transferase. Methionine adenosyl transferase. This methionine adenosyl transferase will convert methionine into S-adenosyl methionine. Okay, and this S-adenosyl methionine is converted into S-adenosyl homocysteine. S-adenosyl homocysteine by the action of the enzyme methyltransferase, and this adenosyl homocysteine is converted into homocysteine by the action of adenosine homocysteinase. Okay, so here what is happening, methionine is being converted into S-adenosyl methionine, S-adenosyl methionine is being converted into S-adenosyl homocysteine, S-adenosyl homocysteine is converted into homocysteine, and this homocysteine now will condense with serine, which is another important amino acid, to form cystothionine, and here the enzyme responsible for this reaction is cystothionine beta synthase. Okay, so hope you are clear so far. And here this cystothionine is converted into alpha ketoglutarate and cysteine. So here the enzyme gamma cystothionase will cleave this cystothionine into cysteine and alpha ketobutyrate. Alpha ketobutyrate and cysteine will be produced from cystothionine by the activity of the enzyme cystothionase. Okay, and later this alpha ketoglutarate is converted into succinyl CoA. So here only the sulfur atom of the cysteine comes from homocysteine, while the rest of the moiety is taken from the serine. Okay, so here finally what happened in the second step, cysteine is produced from series of reactions carried by this methionine and homocysteine. Okay, now let's see the reactions for your clarity. So this is the first step, conversion of methionine to homocysteine. So here methionine is converted into S-adenosyl methionine by the enzyme methionine adenosyl transferase. Here ATP is utilized. Along with ATP, water molecule is also utilized. If you observe here, to this S-adenosyl moiety, this methionine is attached. Okay, and the next step is this S-adenosyl methionine is converted into S-adenosyl homocysteine. So remaining ring moiety is removed except the adenosine and the methionine moiety which is transferred in the first reaction. So we call this particular compound as S-adenosyl homocysteine, and here the enzyme responsible for this adenosyl homocysteine production is methyl transferase. And in the next reaction, the precursor which is responsible for the second stage of this methionine metabolism is formed, that is homocysteine, and the enzyme responsible for this reaction is adenosine homocysteine. During this reaction also, water molecule is utilized. Okay, so whatever the homocysteine produced in the first stage is converted into cysteine. How? Again, this homocysteine is converted into cystothionine by the activity of cystothionine beta synthase. During this reaction, what happens? Serine and homocysteine, they both condense with each other to form the cystothionine. Cystothionine will be produced. If you see the structure here, both are combined, and here we can find two COOH groups, one from homocysteine and one from serine, and two NH3 plus molecules, one from homocysteine and one from serine. That means both structures or both compounds, they just simply condense with each other. Okay, and in the next step, the cystothionine is cleaved into alpha ketobutyrate and cysteine, and here the enzyme responsible for this reaction is gamma cystothionine. Here also one water molecule is utilized. Okay, so finally we have got the cysteine, and whatever the alpha ketobutyrate is from, it is converted into succinyl CoA. Okay, so this is the second step. Now let's see the third step. So what is the third step in the metabolism of methionine? It is nothing but the degradation of the cysteine. So cysteine and cysteine are interconvertible compounds. Okay, cysteine and cysteine are interconvertible compounds, and they depend on cysteine reductase enzyme for this interconversion. That means from cysteine to cysteine, cysteine to cysteine conversion is maintained, or it is carried by NAD plus dependent cysteine reductase. NAD plus dependent cysteine reductase. Okay, so the cysteine on decarboxylation produces mercaptoethanol. So it will produce mercaptoethanol, and this mercaptoethanol is involved in the biosynthesis of coenzyme A from vitamin pantothenic acid. So here what happens? This cysteine is converted into mercaptoethanolamine, which will act as the precursor for the coenzyme A and vitamin pantothenic acid. Okay, and the enzyme cysteine dioxygenase oxidizes cysteine to cysteine sulfinate, which on further oxidation is converted into cystic acid. So again here the another enzyme cysteine dioxygenase, this will oxidize cysteine to cysteine sulfate. So in few cases what happens? Cysteine sulfate will be produced by the oxidation process of the enzyme cysteine dioxygenase. Cysteine dioxygenase will convert this cysteine into cysteine sulfate. Okay, and this cysteine sulfate is further oxidized to form cystic acid. Okay, and later undergoes decarboxylation to produce taurine. Okay, taurine. This taurine is a conjugate which we can see in the bile acids. Okay, taurine is a compound which is present in the bile acids as a conjugate. And here cysteine can be degraded by disulfidehydrases. So as this cysteine sulfate is the one of the compound, we can also degrade the cysteine by using these enzymes disulfidehydrase. Okay, by the action of this disulfidehydrates, what happens? Sulfur and ammoniase pyruvate will be produced. What happens by degradation of cysteine using disulfidehydrase? What happens? Sulfur and ammoniase pyruvate will be produced. And next, cysteine is a component of tripeptide glutathione. So it also acts as a component of tripeptide glutathione. So here, if you observe this metabolic pathway of methionine, this is involved with the cysteine, which is another important amino acid. So here, if we are studying the metabolism of methionine, which means we are also studying the metabolism of cysteine. Okay, so see the reactions carefully. And let's move to the another amino acid, that is aspartic acid. Aspartic acid. So this aspartic acid is produced from the intermediate product of Krebs cycle. What is it? Oxaloacetate. So this oxaloacetate is one of the important intermediate which we see in the Krebs cycle, and this oxaloacetate is responsible for the formation of this aspartate. Okay, and this formation of aspartate is carried by the reaction transamination. Transamination is a reaction by which this particular aspartate will be produced. Okay, and here aspartate transaminase is an important enzyme for the interconversion of glutamate and aspartate. So here aspartate and glutamate will be interconvertible. Okay, so here glutamate is also an important compound here. This will help in the conversion of this oxaloacetate into aspartate. So transamination is nothing but conversion of two compounds. So if you see the reaction here, this is a transamination reaction. Here glutamate is converted into alpha ketoglutarate and oxaloacetate is converted into aspartate, and both the reactions will be taken simultaneously. So both the reactions will be carried simultaneously by single enzyme. Okay, these two are two different reactions. They occur simultaneously, but the enzyme responsible for these two reactions is aspartate transaminase. Okay, now let's see about this aspartate metabolism. So this aspartate metabolism is a simple metabolism. Okay, so aspartate is produced or formed from oxaloacetate. And what is the function of aspartate in biological aspects means it donates one amino group for the synthesis of urea. So in the earlier class we discussed about urea cycle. So in urea cycle, how many steps of reactions do we have? Can you answer it? We have around 4 reactions. Okay. So in the first reaction of formation of carbonyl phosphate, one carbon dioxide will combine with NH4 plus molecule, which is a amino group, and this amino group is donated by aspartate. Okay, so this particular carbon dioxide and amine group combines to form carbonyl phosphate by the action of carbonyl phosphate synthase. Okay, so this is a first ever reaction that we see in the urea cycle. So this amino group, which is involved in the first step of the urea cycle, is donated from the aspartate. So this is the major biological function of this aspartate. Okay, and aspartate forms a connection link between urea cycle and TCA cycle through oxaloacetate. Okay, so through this oxaloacetate, this aspartate will act as connecting link between urea cycle and TCA cycle. TCA cycle means nothing but Krebs cycle. And this particular aspartate is utilized for the synthesis of purines and pyrimidines also. That means in the purine biosynthesis and also in the pyrimidine biosynthesis, this particular aspartate is utilized. And again, malate aspartate shuttle is also present in biological systems. And why this aspartate and malate shuttle is present? It is very important for the transfer of reducing equivalence from cytosol to mitochondria and mitochondria to cytosol. So here malate aspartate shuttle is very important for the conversion of these reducing equivalence. Reducing equivalence means nothing but NAD, NADPH. So these kind of reducing equivalence will be transported from cytosol to mitochondria and mitochondria to cytosol with the help of this malate aspartate shuttle. Okay. And here aspargine, which is an important compound, is produced from the aspartate, and the enzyme responsible for this is asparginase and aspargine synthase. So if you see the reaction, by the action of aspargine synthase, this aspargine is produced, and by the action of asparginase, aspargine will produce aspartate. So this reaction is a interconvertible reaction, and this reaction of aspartate to aspargine formation is a ATP dependent reaction. So if you see the reaction here, aspartate is converted into aspargine by the enzyme aspargine synthase, which is a ATP dependent enzyme. And if you see the another reaction, that is conversion of aspargine to aspartate by the enzyme asparginase. Here water molecule is utilized. Okay, so this is the major metabolic reactions that are related to aspartic acid. Okay, basically this aspartic acid is very essential for the transfer of reducing equivalence in the body, that means from cytosol to mitochondria, and also helpful in the synthesis of purines and pyrimidines, and also donates one amino group which is involved in the first step of the urea cycle. So these are the major reactions that we commonly see in the aspartic acid metabolism. Now let's see the another metabolic reactions of amino acid glycine. This is also a simple metabolic pathway. That means not pathway, simple metabolic reactions are involved in this glycine metabolism, and this is a non-essential amino acid. So what are essential amino acids and what are non-essential amino acids? This amino acid, glycine, is a non-essential amino acid. Why we call this glycine as non-essential amino acid means there is no need of taking this glycine in our diet. Why? Because glycine is developed, synthesized in our body only, and that's why there is no need of this glycine uptake through diet. That's why it is a non-essential. There is no essentiality of this glycine through diet, because already this glycine is synthesized in our body. So let's see about the metabolism of glycine. Glycine is a non-essential, optically inactive glycogenic amino acid. So this is inactive, non-essential, and also glycogenic amino acid. Glycogenic amino acid means its moiety is developed from the pyruvic acid. Its moiety is developed from the pyruvic acid. That's why we call this as glycogenic amino acid. So here glycine is actively involved in the synthesis of many specialized products like purines, creatine, etc. So in the same manner as aspartic acid is helpful in the synthesis of this purines and pyrimidines, this particular glycine is also helpful in the synthesis of purines, and sometimes it is also helpful in the creatine synthesis. And this glycine is most important amino acid which is excreted through our urine. And here let's see how this glycine is synthesized. This is synthesized from serine. If you remember the serine metabolism, that serine is helpful in the formation of this glycine. Glycine is produced from serine. Okay. And can you mention the enzyme? The enzyme is serine hydroxymethyl transferase. So serine hydroxymethyl transferase is the enzyme which is responsible for the production of glycine from serine. And this is a THF dependent enzyme. That means tetrahydrofolate is responsible for the activity of this enzyme serine hydroxymethyl transferase. Okay. So this is the major synthetic reaction of this glycine. And this glycine can also be obtained from another amino acid, threonine. This threonine is the amino acid which can also produce this glycine, and the enzyme here is threonine aldolase. Threonine aldolase is the enzyme. Okay. So here the glycine synthase can convert one carbon unit, carbon dioxide and NH3 to form into a glycine. So if you see the structure of glycine, only we see one hydroxyl group, one methyl group, one amino group and CH2. So these will be donated by carbon dioxide and carbon unit and NH3. These three will combine to form a glycine. So here the major part, that is degradation of glycine, is there. Let's see. So glycine undergoes oxidative deamination by glycine synthase. So what happens here? Glycine undergoes oxidative deamination by glycine synthase enzyme, and here whatever the major compounds which are responsible for the formation of glycine, they will be liberated. What are they? NH4, CO2 and one carbon fragment. Okay. And here this particular glycine synthase is also a THF dependent enzyme, that is tetrahydrofolate will be helpful for the activity of the enzyme glycine synthase. And another important reaction involved in glycine degradation is, here glycine synthase is glycine is reversibly converted to serine. So we know serine will produce glycine. In the same manner, serine will be produced from glycine. That means both are interconvertible. Glycine to serine, serine to glycine, and the enzyme is serine hydroxymethyl transferase. Okay, and next degradation reaction is serine is degraded to glyoxylate. So why here glycine is related to serine and serine is related to glycine? So whatever the serine is present, it is converted into ethanolamine, from ethanolamine to glycoxylate. So this glycoxylate, again what happens is, it with the help of uh, other enzymes, what it will do is oxalate and formate will be separated from this glyoxylate. So glyoxylate is converted into oxalate here. So from glycine to serine, serine to ethanolamine, ethanolamine to glycolate, glycolate to glyoxylate. This glyoxylate is liberated to oxalate and formate. Okay, so here at the end oxalate is produced. So this oxalate is a excretory product and formate will enter carbon pool. So this is how this particular glycine is degraded. And here another important reaction is glycine can directly converted into glyoxylate, and here the enzyme responsible for this reaction is glycine oxidase. Glycine oxidase. Okay, glycine oxidase is helpful for the production of glyoxylate directly from glycine, and this glyoxylate can also be produced from serine. How glyoxylate is converted into serine, serine is converted into ethanolamine, ethanolamine to glycolate, glycolate to glyoxylate. So in this manner different degradation reactions will be carried by this glycine. Okay, hope you understood this topic very well. If you have any doubts, please contact me, and please write the notes without any delay and practice the reactions. Thank you, students.